No matter what challenge that we look at, whether it's ones that are very, very close to us now or further afield, from data ethics through to the talent crisis, having a good, solid conversation around diversity and inclusion is absolutely imperative to tackle these big challenges. And I am very excited to be joined by an executive leader who is doing exactly that. Asha, welcome to the festival.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
No, absolute pleasure. I guess the best place for us to begin is if you wouldn't mind telling me a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. So I have been in this industry for almost 30 years. I started my career as a programmer, so very traditional, got a job in New York, financial services company. And then I landed up building a technology consulting firm. I built a data management consulting firm, and then moved on building. So really my entrepreneurship bug hit me, and I went on building from consulting firm to an e-commerce company to a healthcare software company. And now I teach at Columbia University. I'm a CXO coach, and I'm the founder and CEO of WILDA, which is Women Leaders in Data and AI.
Amazing. And what an exciting journey that you've had personally, but professionally as well. And it's obviously, when it comes to this discussion we're having here today, it's that last piece of the puzzle, WILDA. Awesome organization. I've been very lucky to be connected to you probably about a year now and watching the work that you do. And there's a few questions I want to ask about the work that you're doing. But I suppose, given your entrepreneurship background and the work you've been in this community, as you say, for a number of years, what drove you to founding WILDA?
Listen, being a programmer, and when you really climb the leadership journey, you go from an individual contributor of being a programmer or a technical expert to a manager where you have to take care of a team. Mm-hmm. And then you become a leader building an organization. You're so committed to the cause of what you're building. If it's a consulting, making sure that as a consultant, you are providing the best value to your customer, or as an engineer, you're building a software product. You don't ever worry about if there is diversity. That's the last thing you're worrying about, because you're really going to work as a professional, and you're really thinking about, am I doing the best job for my customer? Am I doing the best job for the users? Am I building the best product as an engineer? So the thought of diversity never really crossed my mind before. It was really during the pandemic, which I think for like a lot of people, it was a time of reflection. It was a time when people thought about their purpose. And I kind of fell in that trap too, where I was questioning. Even though I had a full career of being a technologist to an entrepreneur, to an academic professor, to a coach, I was questioning my purpose. And this really came upon when I was having a conversation with my son, who's older, and he said to me, why don't you do something for yourself? And I said, what do you mean? And he said, do something for women in tech. And immediately I got upset, and I'm like, what do you mean? You're putting me in a box. Mm-hmm. I'm not just a woman, I'm a professional. I go to work to make sure that I provide the most value to what I do. And he smiled. He said, Mom, just own it. You are a minority. You're a woman, you're a woman of color, and you're a minority in technology. So own it and see if you can maybe pay forward something about that. And I was like, you know what? Really going to work, we never thought about that. As a woman, you always want to be equal, and you never really think about.
I'm going to stop you there. Really, was that your lived reality that you were walking in? And I'm assuming you were very much in the minority in the academic side, but then walking into work. Are you honestly saying you didn't look around and go, "There's no one else that looks like me," or very, very few? Did that really not cross?
So I'll tell you, the women who grew up in 90s and 2000s, we all knew that we were minority, but we walked in knowing that we have to be equal and we have to fight for the seat on the table. So we never really acted like we were. So a lot of women who climbed the ladder during those times really showed up to work to say that I'm equal and I'm not going to see myself as a minority.
Right.
And I'm going to show up to work with my content. So we ignored that we were the only one in the room. We kind of tried not taking the negative of that, but tried, how can I? So we really worked hard to prove ourselves. So I think we had all the women in 90s and 2000s who were growing up in technology field really worked hard to prove themselves. And we didn't want to be boxed. We wanted to say that, look, there is a positive here. But then when he said that, and then a few days later, I was speaking at a conference and I was talking about the numbers and I was talking about how pandemic has really accelerated the technology and the digital world, and everything is run by algorithm, and there's only 12% or 18% of women who are really coding. That was disturbing. Mm-hmm. It was disturbing because the world we live in today was designed by men for men, and digital world is now designed by men too. And then a few days later, I was having lunch with a friend, a really dear friend of mine, who in 1970s was the leader in financial industry. She was working for Chemical Bank, which is now JP Morgan Chase. She was reporting to the highest ranking. She was reporting to actually David Rockefeller, was doing the largest merger, and she couldn't open a bank account. She had to go home to her husband, who was unemployed. He was in school, going to be a lawyer, and has to get his signature to open the bank account. And that was really disturbing. And that's in 1973. So my whole thought was, she's a white woman from New York, comes from a really wealthy family. And if she had to go through differentiation between gender, and she had challenges, we can't create a digital world. We as technologists, men and women, have responsibility of creating a diversity. We want women at the table with men designing this digital world. Mm-hmm. We all want the fair world. It's not just what women want, but men want that too.
Yeah.
So the whole intention behind Wilda was to bring senior leaders together to create an impactful digital world with parity and equity. Mm. And I talk about equity because a lot of time you see the senior leaders get the spot, but they might not have the power. Mm. They might not have the equity. So what can we do to make sure we bring these senior leaders together with a mission to create a fair digital world?
Yeah, a really very exciting mission as well. Why do you think we're still having this conversation in 2022, when in this moment in New York, in this wonderful studio that we're in? Why do you think, what are the big challenges that you're seeing in the market and wider? Why are we still having this conversation today?
So the first thing is change is hard, right? So no matter what you do, and especially people who live in the world of technology, they know that how hard it is to even change, getting adoption of technology. Mm-hmm. Change in life is hard. We created this world where men went to work, women stayed home. That changed from, we got voting rights for women, we got women to open their bank accounts. Change is happening much slower than ever before. But now with the pandemic, I think the acceleration of technology has brought this in forefront for all these organizations, that if you want to build a digital world, especially everything is run by algorithms. And if we are going to train our algorithms, and we all know about, especially in the field of data and AI, we all understand the unconscious bias, mm-hmm. which exists in algorithms as you're designing the algorithms. So the question is, do we have the right people in the right seat who are designing this algorithm to create the fair world? We heard about the example of Tay, the Microsoft chatbot on mm-hmm. Twitter. Within 16 hours, she became biased, right? So everything, our biases are going to be exponentially impacting the decisions we are making. So it's really important that we consciously create in the real world the data sets that would help us create the right world for us in the future. Listen, we might be gone, but we want to leave a world behind that our kids and grandkids, next generation, can benefit from.
And this is, for me, where the conversation moves into business value, because I'm personally tired of the fluffy conversation where you should be doing this because it's the right thing to do. Of course it is. I don't feel like we need to have that discussion anymore in 2022. But it is that business discussion, and as you mentioned, that algorithm, it's the scalability.
Right.
It's the fact that the work that we're doing now in the data space and the AI space is so vast. So if you're in building biases in that model that's going to impact thousands, if not millions of people, that is very dangerous.
Right.
And as you mentioned there about the Microsoft chatbot on Twitter, and there's, I mean, in the media now, and the lay person is far more educated than ever before with Netflix documentaries,
Right.
etc., that really give solid use cases of if you do not involve people of color, this has been what has happened before. And as we know, when we talk about business value, it's about having a proof of concept and saying, here's the value. Now it's your choice whether to buy in. When we've got these stories, it's a case of this is what happens when it goes wrong.
Right.
And sometimes you have to push different buttons, and it is a case of, do you want a bad PR day? Because guess what? If it shows that the decisions you're making about who qualifies for a mortgage, and it shows that there's a real big influence based off of gender or color or sexuality, that's not going to go well for you. What would you say to the people that are listening who want to be part of this change? They want to make a difference. What are some of the actionable things they can do today in making a difference in our community to making sure that we're tackling these big problems?
So first of all, I agree with you on the business value. I think if you don't involve diversity in your teams who are building these algorithms, you are building algorithms which are not fair to the world we live in. We live in a diverse world. So it's really important that we have diverse view when we're creating technology to serve the diverse view. The second thing I would say is that what we do at Wilda, we bring peer-to-peer, we call them mastermind circle. So it's about peer-to-peer learning. I'll say that if you truly believe in creating a diverse team, start with one person. Start with your direct reports. What we say at Wilda is that it's about the network. Traditionally, how guys did business was they build networks, they go out to play golf, and they create decisions and support each other. So what we do at Wilda is we bring women and men. So it's not just about women. So what we consciously decided is that even though it's a cause of diversity and we are trying to bring women into the mix, we want men to stand together with women to create. So our members are women and men who are senior leaders. We bring them together for their growth. So we say that we are going to educate you in peer-to-peer mastermind circle where they come together monthly and they talk about their challenges and they talk about what they're learning in best practices. So start from where you are. Start from your own home where you are and learn from each other and invest in each other. So that's, I would say, is simple. Somebody said, you have a big mission. And how are you going to achieve that? And I always say we start with each member. Each person can take one initiative to pay forward. And if we did that, we'll make at least a little dent. And that's all we can do. We can hope for creating small changes to create big change.
100%. And I think just as there's so much data in the world, and if we talk about lots of different concepts like data quality, et cetera, it can feel quite overwhelming.
Yes.
And the same with this conversation we're having right now. It can feel, gosh, there's just such a big challenge on our hand. But as you mentioned, it's a case of isolating it into the difference that you can make in your team, in your recruitment process, in how you socialize as a team. Is that attractive to everybody in your team, not just a few? What would you say are the business value case studies that aren't being realized yet due to diversity maybe not being front of mind for all organizations? What do you think are the big things that people are missing out on?
Thinking about always the end result, when you think about what any IT project, it's a data project, AI project, or analytics project, ultimate goal is to create an impact on business. And when you're thinking about business, remember, our users in the business community are diverse. The people in the market are diverse. So people who are buying your products are not just one type. We live in the world which we're a global community. So you're going to sell your products to all different community. So if you don't consciously make an effort of bringing people, especially in your data science teams, who can think differently. I'll give you a great example. One of our Wilda members, she was working on a project one of the members of the team members was a woman senior leader, and her engineer was a female leader. And so she brought to this member and said, the data set I have, it's a pharmaceutical company, and she said, the data set I have does not have enough representation of the female members. It was a drug discovery. And she landed up insisting that I can't run the test until I have enough data set. The thing is, this is what we have. So randomize the data set and see what you can get and give us the results. So she realized that she didn't have enough data, so she took it upon herself to go actually hunt for the right data sets to include the fair amount of diversity in the data set. So she said, I actually went out for the data set for the female so that she can make sure that the drug discovery for this specific disease was the right result. She said, Asha, when we started, the result was X. And when the engineer, who was a female engineer, insisted on getting the female data set, the result was Y. So the point is that if it was a generic team, they would say, you know what? This is what we got. We're going to move on.
Yeah.
Because we had a diverse team, the female engineer insisted on getting the data set and get her opinion, her viewpoint. And the result actually was changed. And it was actually published on their website about how the data set, having the female data set, changed the result.
Yeah.
And that's where the business value comes in play, is to really understand your audience and having the right team to impact the audience.
And this is the thing, right? We all carry our own biases, our own lived experiences are going to impact it. But if you've got a range of people sat around a table and we're all coming at our own personal view, as you say, as a woman, I'm going to advocate for my lived experience as a woman. And I'm going to look at a data set and a scenario with that perspective.
Right.
And it's so unbelievably powerful. And thank you for sharing that story, because I think it demonstrates so well as well the business value of it actually being accurate to what you want it to be as well. Really very interesting. And earlier you mentioned about the fact that Wilder and your membership isn't just about women, it's about men as well, and obviously those who are non-binary identifying. And it's a case of everyone coming together for the right reasons and kind of moving things forward. And I just wanted to pull that thread, because I think that can sometimes be quite a jarring concept in when we're talking diversities. It can feel like a certain subset of the community are banging their heads against a wall a lot of the time about this. But actually, if we look at your community members and members here at Corinium who are passionate about it, actually, it's a vast majority. It's just a case of empowering people to make these changes and decisions. Just before we end today, Asha, if you could give one call to action for our audience today, what would it be?
I would say that when you see a women leaders panel, a diversity panel, men need to be on that. I would have, in conferences, people would ask me to lead a diversity panel, and it's all women. And I keep saying, it's not a women's issue. Please bring men on the panel. We need diversity in all panels, not just diversity panel. It's not a woman's issue, it's a man's issue too. It's making the world a better place for all, not just for women. And I would say one thing I would say is that just raise your hand and say yes to bringing the change. Change is hard, and we all think that we are doing something to create a change. Do a little extra and make the world a better place.
Wow, what a bombshell to end on. Asha, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.